There seems to be a big argument and uprising to make sure Tony Ferguson gets the next title shot with Khabib. And the contenders that could take that away from him are Conor McGregor and George St. Pierre. Now, first off, that discussion is not real and that discussion does not exist. These are people that are arguing against an argument that has never been made. George St. Pierre never said, I want Khabib next. Dana White never said he'd like George St. Pierre to be next. Conor McGregor has never said, I'm coming back and I'm fighting Khabib. Dana White has never said Conor McGregor's coming back and fighting Khabib. We are arguing about things that simply do not exist. Everybody has said, from Khabib to Tony to Dana White, that they would like to see Khabib and Tony. And Dana White agreed. So there's no argument. However, for you to ever make the argument that Tony deserves it in front of George St. Pierre or Conor McGregor and then act as though you can just stand there on that without any kind of resistance is silly. I mean, we're all going to fighting about nothing that anybody's fighting about. Let's have a goddamn fight. People want Tony. Tony has the mandate of the masses. Tony has won 12 fights in a row, did some damn heavy lifting, hasn't been defeated since we can recall. Oh, and by the way, had an interim championship and a promised fight with Khabib. Was hurt, not on his own accord, dealt with that, dealt with the demotion and the frustration and raised himself back up, and people want to see him get a shot. I'm in. I am one of those people. It turns out so is Dana White, and so is Khabib Nurmagomedov. So there is no fight. But to make believe that you can bring the argument that I just made of 12 in a row and hasn't lost since we don't know when and had a championship and got hurt and it wasn't his fault, and that's going to trump George St. Pierre, who's the greatest fighter to have ever done it, a 2-division world champion. Oh, and by the way, that world championship that he no longer has anymore, he didn't lose that either. And if you want to talk about 12 straight wins, I don't know how many George has, but I got a lot of money in my pocket right now. Old expression, I'll bet whatever I got in my pocket, George has at least 12. So where are you coming from on that? Champ thing didn't mean that. Where are you coming from? You don't get to win that argument. Then you try to act as though because Conor has been away or Conor lost to Khabib that Conor doesn't get the shot. Look, we all agree it's Tony. Nobody's fighting that. It's going to be Tony. But to come out with the argument that 12 and a title and not... Conor McGregor was a 2-time world champion. Oh, and by the way, those happen to be the 2 toughest weight classes in the sport. Oh, and by the way, this is also a business. And if you want to talk about the business side of it, he already fought this guy once. Rematches historically do better than the original. And their first fight was the biggest fight of all time. I mean, just don't act like players don't all have arguments here. Yes, they do. Another one. And again, Justin Gaethje. Not making the argument. Nobody that Khabib will even be offered. Not a name that Dana will ever even bring Khabib. Right now, before Tony. Also an interesting fight, though. It is a very interesting fight stylistically. When I look at that fight, I do think this is pretty clear and it's going to be Khabib. But there is one intangible to this, which is Khabib beats everybody the same way. And I do mean everybody. He has not got a win ever in any fight, including outside of the organization, where you take the opponent down. Where he didn't have overwhelming groundwork. And that's one thing we've never seen anybody do to Gaethje. We've just never seen anybody come out and throw Justin Gaethje down and keep him there and bitch him out. We've just never seen that. Where they KO'd him, TKO'd him, or submitted. We've never seen that. I mean, not for nothing. That is interesting. When you have a guy like Khabib with this level of success like we've never seen before, 28-0 and only lost 1 round against the world's best competition, you do start to look for other things. Generally in a fight, you're looking for somebody that can beat him. That's it. Who's the next contender? Who can beat this guy? That's generally what you're looking for. But if you could expose one weakness or diminish one strength, that's also compelling for us as fans. That's worth watching. Okay, Khabib might win this fight, but I think he's going to lose a couple of exchanges here that we've never seen him lose before, forcing him to go to strategy B. That would be a lot of fun. Sometimes that's the most you're going to get when you've got a guy who has separated himself from the pack. And when you do look at it just on paper, Khabib's had a whole bunch of fights. Gaethje's had a whole bunch of fights. Khabib's taken a whole bunch of guys down. Gaethje has not been taken down by a whole bunch of guys. All of a sudden, it starts to get interesting. I only bring this to you because I can't go on the underground and see any more posts about people trying to stop a preemptive attack to stop Tony Ferguson from getting the world championship that everybody has agreed is an opportunity that will at least be offered to Tony, myself included. I will do this piece. I will tell you guys who listen and who have some tiny level of sophistication. I only need you to have the good sense that God gave geese. If you have that much, then you will know that I have said very clearly 3 times now and making it a 4th. I also believe, of all of those arguments, Tony wins. I also believe that Tony needs to be given the opportunity. I also believe that Tony never taken a break from the sport, except when he was forced out by injury, which was not of his fault. The demotion that he was given and the way he has climbed himself back up, including going through world champions, is more than enough to get Tony a seat at the table. But you guys will write comments saying, oh, Chael thinks it should be George. Oh, Chael thinks it should be Justin. Oh, Chael thinks it should be Conor. I don't. I am not saying those things. But what I am saying is if you're hanging your hat on the argument of Tony, and that argument is backed up by one and only thing, which is says Tony has the better resume, that one that we could have a discussion about. We could for sure have a discussion. A one-time intern champion who never defended the belt against a 2-time simultaneous world champion in Conor McGregor, who, by the way, happened to have 3 belts. Don't forget he had the intern 45. He had the real 45 and he had the real 55. Don't forget he had 3 belts. Just saying, if you're going to tell the story, let's tell it the way it happened. And when you talk about George St. Pierre, it would be very hard to tell anybody, anywhere, that he doesn't belong. Don't forget, these waters just got tested. George St. Pierre left the sport the same as he did just now, changed weight classes, cut the line in front of everybody, went to the guard and won a world championship. Okay, the days of saying George can't move and come in front, there's already precedent set for that. So if you want to see Tony because you like Tony and you respect Tony, you think Tony's, just say that. Don't try to make it about paper. Because if you try to make it about paper, you may not like how this argument comes out.